Hello, hi, heyo, sup, all you dudes and dudettes, my name is Gino24, and Happy New Year! Now, last year, I didn't really keep up with the newest gaming releases. The one thing I was highly anticipating got delayed to this year, and there was nothing which caught my eye enough that I couldn't wait until Christmas time to play. That's not to say I wasn't intrigued by some of the more widely discussed titles of the year, so today I'll be giving you my first impressions of what I've played of 3 of these titles in the order of their release in my 2022 gaming catch-up. And what better place to start than with what many consider to be Game of the Year. Even though this technically isn't a Dark Souls game, it does share much of the DNA of the developer's earlier title, of which I played some of a few years ago and recall enjoying. I should really get back to it at some point. But anyway, let's focus on Elden Ring for now. From the few hours that I played of it, I like it a lot, but not for the main bulk of the experience. For starters, the story itself really failed to intrigue me. It felt like very generic fantasy, and the silly names and crappy voice acting made it feel almost like a parody of the genre.
But I can also see that you're not after my throat.
To be honest, once I saw the name Chapel of Anticipation, part of me genuinely began to wonder if the game actually was intending to be tongue-in-cheek with its narrative. I don't think it is though, and either way I simply wasn't grabbed by it in the way I wanted to be with this kind of setting. I also struggle to get into the fighting, although I'll admit maybe it just isn't my cup of tea as opposed to having genuine flaws. I enjoy a good challenge in a video game, but this thing gets way too hard, way too fast. And with these fast-paced action games, I really wish they wouldn't feature the strategic element of being unable to cancel a heavy attack if you need to evade. I'm not saying I dislike the fighting, because it can be quite enjoyable, but having such a challenging encounter so early on when the game is still really being established and the storyline has yet to hook me felt really detrimental to my incentive to continue. If leveling up actually impacts the combat, because I have no clue if it does, then this was a reminder as to why I fell out of love with RPGs. Having to meander around for multiple sessions due to a roadblock just feels... ugh. I wound up abandoning progression in favor of simply exploring the world. And that's where I found myself enjoying this game quite a bit. The world building is so-so, but the aesthetics and atmosphere of it are great. Heading towards those intimidating yet intriguing castles and discovering pathways to visit certain areas early is the sort of exploration I find myself easily engaged with in this kind of game, and using the light shining from the sites of Lost Grace to reach the next objective works really nicely. I've had great fun sprinting my way through interesting areas I probably shouldn't be in at that point. So yeah, I'm uncompelled to conquer the challenges this game has to offer, but I am gonna keep playing to see the wondrous sights this world has to offer. Yeah, so an unconventional endorsement, but hey, it's an endorsement nevertheless. Oh, next up, how about we experience a significant tonal shift by taking a look at Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the very first 3D entry in the series as it says right there. If the first 3D Kirby game came out around 10 years ago, I would have been incredibly hyped for it. But nowadays, my reaction towards it was nice. Way overdue, but nice. It's more or less what I expected it to be, but I've rather enjoyed my time with it so far. It's laughable that the game offers a harder difficulty mode because it's still extremely easy, but, especially after Elden Ring, it was nice to have a leisurely experience navigating this charming world. The movement is enjoyable, the new power-ups are creative and a lot of fun to utilize, and the older ones are put to great use in these bonus challenge rooms, which are pretty addictive. The stages themselves are good too, but I often find they drag on a little too long being as linear as they are. The whole idea of finding extra Waddle Dees in a level by completing certain objectives works, but I feel like the levels could have been more spacious a la Mario 64 to make revisiting them to complete the rest of the objectives more appealing, especially as all the levels in each world use the exact same music, which gets a little grating. As is, chances are you'll come across most of the Waddle Dees on your first playthrough of a level anyway. My only other nitpicks are the lack of sound effects in cutscenes and the pointlessness of this new character who doesn't really add much to the game. But none of these points are huge deals, and I give the developers credit for doing a really solid and enjoyable job of adapting the Kirby formula into 3D. There's not a ton to say as it is a very simple game, but that's kind of why it's enjoyable. There's an endearing quality about it. Last up, we have a game which got mixed reviews but seemed to have been well received by non-critics, Sonic Frontiers. I'm just gonna cut right to the chase. Wait, what? What? I mean, why can't the full game just install beforehand instead of just giving me the one level, then stalling me anyway? Anyway, cutting to the chase, I really didn't care much for what I played of Sonic Frontiers. I agree with SkillUp's review, where I think going open world is an intriguing route for the series to take, but the execution of it here is a mixed bag. The structure of doing all these mini stages is mildly fun, but makes the whole experience bleed together in what feels like a meandering package. It doesn't help matters that visually, these mini islands look like the product of someone modding the game. And while having boss fights around on the map is a pretty neat idea, the design for some of them, and some of the missions in general, can feel a bit clunky and unsatisfying. I mean, what the hell is this crap? Most of the game feels like it lacks a bit of polish, the cutscenes feel weightless and off, and certain parts of those mini island levels require some insanely quick reaction time on the player's behalf. As for the classic Sonic levels, they're pretty enjoyable and I had fun going for the S rank on one of them, but there's plenty of other 3D Sonic games which I can pop in to give me the same satisfaction. There's not much about Frontiers in that department which stands out as far as I can tell. Sprinting across the lush greenery is a nice switch off your brain task, and the music which plays as you do so is absolutely wonderful. But yeah, an intriguing experiment, but not one I particularly got into. And those are the games. An interesting bunch to be sure, but I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on them. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
To an innocent bystander, it may look like traffic cone theft. And I'm an innocent bystander, and to me it looks like traffic cone theft.